Okay, so this was the first experience I had um, after being told that nothing was wrong with me, and started asking the new question, what more do I need to know about myself? And if my memory serves me, it was a few months after that experience that I shared in my last video. Um, we moved 3 times in 1 year during this period of time. So my journal was packed in a box. And so I don't have real specific dates. But if I remember correctly, it was 2 or 3 months after that initial experience that this experience happened. Um, so I'd been mulling over for a while, just kind of repeating this question in my mind: what more do I need to understand? What more do I need to know? Specifically about myself, but also kind of in general. And I was an entrepreneur, and I would often attend conferences or these group gatherings or whatever. And there was a gal there. She was a friend of friends, and so she and I weren't like super close, but we were more than acquaintances. And her name is Mindy, and I kind of had a hard time with Mindy. Not because anything was wrong with her. Um, that was the problem, is that like she was too good. She was having more success than me in her business, and she had been doing it for less time. And also, she was super sweet and nice and kind and confident, but in a beautiful way, not in a like I'm better than everybody else way. Like she was just practically perfect in every way. And it was really painful for me. Like I wanted a reason to hate her, and there wasn't a reason to hate her. So then I just felt guilty for not liking her because her success just really rubbed in my lack of success in yet another area of my life, right? So anyway, so that was Mindy. I love you now, Mindy. Only love. If she happens to watch this video. So I went to, after a couple months after that initial experience, I went to another one of these gatherings, and Mindy was there, and a group of us went out to lunch together, and I happened to be seated next to Mindy. And she started talking about how she had accomplished everything on her vision board, and it was time to make a new vision board. And normally in the past, that would have really rubbed me wrong because, of course, she finished everything on her vision board. Of course. But this time, because I had been just pondering on this question of what more do I need to know, when she said that, it like pinged my entire soul. Like I knew she was someone I needed to talk to. I just knew it. And so we exchanged numbers and we began communicating. And I just picked her brain for everything. And I wasn't mad. I wasn't resentful towards her anymore. It was just like I knew she was someone who knew something that I needed to know. And so there are two things. I think there were a lot of things I picked her brain about, but there are two things that have stuck with me and that I still use even today. So the first one was dominant, non-dominant writing. And she got it from a book that I will try and post in the description of this video. I haven't read the book, so I personally can't vouch for it, but if you're wanting more details on this kind of writing, apparently that's where you go to find it. So I will just give you a brief summary of how I used it. So the idea is that you start with your non-dominant hand and you write out the way I do it. I don't know if this is how they teach in the book, but I basically do a verbal temper tantrum. So when I would start to feel the negative subconscious stuff like starting to bubble up, I would write with my non-dominant hand this verbal temper tantrum that's, the whole like, this isn't fair. Why is this happening to me? Like all of that stuff that like normally kids do, kicking and screaming on the floor. And as adults, like we know not to kick and scream on the floor, but we still have some of those same feelings. We just learn to like bury it. So the point is to try and get it unburied because it's really not healthy to keep it buried. So I would throw this verbal temper tantrum, or in writing temper tantrum, and then you switch to your dominant hand. Oh, because the idea with the non-dominant hand, unless you're ambidextrous, it looks like a little kid writing. So it's kind of helping get that like childlike part of you that's like really freaking out and throwing a tantrum, to kind of give it a voice and let it express itself. And then you switch to your dominant hand and you write an answer to it. So you can either kind of connect with your higher self, like what would me, the adult me, say to comfort this child and help them understand why they're going through what they're going through, or you can connect with your higher power and have your higher power tell you, from their perspective, why you're going through some of the things you're going through and help comfort you and guide you through that. So that was something that I began to do fairly regularly when I would start to feel the negative, like, the temper tantrum rising, and all the unfairness and whatever. The other thing that Mindy led me to was the Institute of Healing Arts. And she shared her story with me. And I don't remember the details, so I'm not going to share the details. Who knows? Maybe sometime I could post a video from Mindy and she could share her story. That would be really cool, actually. So she shared her story. She grew up in the same faith that I did. So the same like conservative Christian, but she really struggled with depression and anxiety. And she did all the Sunday school answers, right? Like read scripture, pray, meet with other believers and be strengthened by other people and things like that. And it helped. It was helpful to some extent, but it didn't, not enough, not as much as she needed to really be thriving. And so she began to pray for answers, for more help, and she was led to this Institute of Healing Arts. And I'll post the link to the Institute of Healing Arts in the description as well. And so using muscle testing, they do some inner child work. And this kind of thing, muscle testing, inner child work, all that stuff was way outside my experience. It was not something that was like embraced or condoned or talked about in my faith. And so definitely something, I'm naturally a little skeptical by nature. I got my degree in biology, and so like science and proof and all the things, like, and then conservative Christian, like I just am naturally a little skeptical. So if it hadn't been for Mindy's story and how much help it gave her, I don't know that I ever would have looked into it. Also knowing that it didn't take away from her faith, but just helped actually strengthen her faith, and give her additional tools in addition to what she had from her faith. That gave me enough curiosity and confidence to just go check it out. And what I really like about the Institute of Healing Arts is they have a one night a month where they do like a free introductory explanation of all the stuff they do. So they explain muscle testing and they explain like the whole process that they use, which was super helpful for me. If you already know about muscle testing and things like that, then maybe you're like, oh, whatever. But for me, like I said, I had never been exposed to anything like this before. And so this was really huge for me. And I needed to be educated. So I really appreciated, and it's a free event and it's in person, but also you can join via Zoom. So it doesn't matter where you live. They have people from other countries sometimes on their Zoom. So yeah, definitely go to their calendar on their website and see when their free night is, and just RSVP and you'll get the Zoom link, or if you can attend in person, great. So I decided I was going to attend this. And so I lived close enough that I could go in person. So I did. And they were explaining all the things, and I was like, okay, like it makes enough sense. Okay. And then they asked for a volunteer. They said that they were going to do a demonstration of the process that they do. And my hand shot up. Because I am naturally skeptical, I wanted to be the one to experience it. I didn't want it to be like one of those like the magician shows where they plant people in the audience, and so then the people that come up are actually helping to make the trick work. I didn't want that to be the case. So I wanted to be the one experiencing it, so I knew for sure it was legit. So she did the whole process on me. And was it was pretty profound for me. What I learned, I'm not going to like describe the whole process. Again, go on their free night and you can hear how it all works and see the demonstration, because they do a demonstration every time. Um, but basically, using muscle testing, they identified the age when when the unhealthy belief that needed to be cleared became a part of my belief system and my filter. So the age was 8 for this particular belief that needed to be cleared, that was kind of blocking me and holding me back. And so again, I won't go over the whole process and what we did, but in the end, we identified that the belief that became part of my belief system at the age of 8 was that if the good things I did were not noticed, it was because I wasn't good enough, or the thing that I did wasn't good enough. But it came back to me that I wasn't good enough. And we were able to clear that belief in a really beautiful it was such a beautiful experience to clear that and bring peace to that, and to that little 8-year-old that believed she wasn't good enough, if people didn't notice the good things that she did. And my poor parents, I'm the oldest of 4 kids, so of course they didn't notice every little good thing I did. Like, being a mom of 4 kids myself now, there's no way you have the bandwidth as a parent to notice every good thing. But yeah, that was the belief that needed to be cleared. And I actually remember, I didn't put this together back then, but as I was like thinking and thinking about this video and what I would share, I realized I do have a specific memory, and I didn't remember this at the time when I was doing this processing technique, but I do have a very specific memory in elementary school, and it was probably around the age of 8, close to, if not exactly 8. And I had a little group of friends, and we would bring our little ponies or, little animals, and we'd play with them at recess. And there was this other girl that would invite herself to our game, and she was very loud, very talkative, and would just kind of try to control the whole game. And none of us really liked her. Like, she was just really annoying. And looking back, like as an adult, I realized, oh, this girl just really needed some attention. Like she just needed someone to pay attention to her. But she was really annoying. And so our little friend group, we, passed the message around that there were these really big trees around the playground with nice wide trunks. It was an old school, so there were these big grown trees. And we picked one of the trees, and the plan was that when the bell for recess rang, we would all book it to this one tree and hide behind the trunk, and hopefully she wouldn't see where we went. And then we could play in peace and not have this annoying girl like trying to take over the whole game. And I remember specifically from that experience kind of like filing that away, that some people are annoying, some people are not wanted, and people try to hide from them. And I made a mental note that I never want to be that person. I never want to be the person that's super annoying and just needs attention and like invites themselves into things, that really became ingrained in me. And so from that point on, I was determined not to ask for attention or to, get attention in any way that might label me as annoying. And so I think that is actually the beginning of my perfectionism, because I learned that if I'm just really good at things, then people notice me. Then I get good attention, and then I'm wanted. I'm wanted. People don't hide from me. They actually want me. And so I think with that belief, that then as a kid, if I was doing good things, but then nobody noticed, then it must mean that I'm not doing it good enough and that I'm not good enough. So that became a really toxic belief from the age of 8. How sad is that? Nobody taught it to me, right? Like my parents didn't tell me that. I don't think my teachers, like, I have no memory of anyone ever specifically telling me, but I think just from different experiences in my childhood, that became my belief system. So that was the first thing that I felt like God was kind of like, well, if you want to understand yourself better, here's where we need to start. And it's that your accomplishments do not define your value, and how good you are at things does not define your value. And even though I'm still working on that, I call myself a recovering perfectionist because it definitely still crops up once in a while. But that was the first experience I was led to when I started asking, what more do I need to understand about myself? So, anyway, until next time.